everybody, it's Holly here today with a new video for Markerpop, and today I'm going to be using some products from MFT, The Greeting Farm, Ranger, Lawn Fawn, and Pretty Pink Posh. So we're going to start out with the large grid stencil from My Favorite Things, and I'm using a piece of watercolor paper cut down to a standard A2 size card front, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to be using the new Candied Apple, Distress Ink, Pumpkin, Mermaid Lagoon, Twisted Citron, and Lemonade. I'm going to use a mixture of those colors to create a rainbow here. And I'm just using the small sponge dauber applicator thing. And I'm just putting each of the colors down randomly. You don't have to go in any specific order because we're just creating like a background splash. And you want to go back over each color again with the previous color you used to kind of make sure everything has a nice smooth blend. Then once I take my grid sheet off, I want to go ahead and heat set that for a second with my heat tool, and then I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of water onto the front of it and then dab it with a paper towel, and that's going to pull up some of the ink and create a fun distressed background. Then I'm going to heat set it again. You want to try to get it as dry as possible because the ink will lift up anytime your fingerprints touch it because it reacts with the moisture. Okay, then we're going to use the new set from The Greeting Farm called Magical Friends, and I'm going to use the unicorn image from this set. This set is pretty cool. Reminds me of 1980 something and the My Little Ponies we all used to have. So I'm going to ink that up with Tuxedo Black Memento ink on some Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock. And I want my unicorn to be white, so I'm going to start using C0, C1, and a little bit of C3 just for some shading. And I'm starting out with the lightest color, C0, and moving on to C1, and then through C3, and then I'm going back down. Really using C3 sparingly. And I use a little bit of the Zero Colorless blender once I'm all done to kind of blend the edge of the gray there out into the white a little bit. I do apologize, my camera keeps trying to focus. I'm using a new camera, so bear with me here. Then I'm going to use Y21 and Y26 to create a golden color for the unicorn's little horn thing there. And then I wanted to add a little bit of pink to the cheek, so I'm using some R20. Then I decided to go a little different and create some green hair for my unicorn, so I'm going to be using BGs. There I'm just cleaning up any little spaces that I have. So I'm going to start out with BG10, BG11, and BG13. I'm thinking I might do better filming me using my Copics from a side angle. Above doesn't seem to be showing you guys very much. I'm not an expert at hair. This is something that I struggle with really bad. But I did do a little better today, so one thing I'm trying to remember to do is keep your Copic straight up and down. Very light pressure with the tip, so you get individual strand lengths of hair. If you hold your marker to the side too much, it just creates too much of a wide coloring area, and you just don't get that individual strand look. So I'm putting the BG10 down first and leaving a little bit of white where my highlight's going to be. And then I'm going over with BG11 and BG13, and then I'm coming backwards down with BG11 and BG10, and then filling everything in. And you just keep going back and forth. Then I wanted a little bit of darker, so I went ahead and grabbed the BG49 and brought that in for my dark areas and to create a couple more darker strands. And I'm also turning the paper. That's something else I noticed with coloring hair. You get your flicks are a little bit better if you can turn the paper to the angle of the way you want the flicks to go, like the direction of the hair. And I'm doing each hair area in a different section. I'm not coloring the whole thing with one color. I'm just working on one area at a time. And that will help your colors blend a little better because it doesn't give anything time to dry in between. Yeah, I'm sorry, you just can't really see my hands in the way there just because of the angle of my hand. I'll work on that. So once I have my hair all done and colored, as your image starts to dry, the colors kind of blend together a little bit and they start to fade just a tiny bit. So I go back over a lot of my darker areas with the BG49 to kind of make sure I really deepen those shadows that I wanted. Here you'll see me go back over the other parts that I already finished coloring. And then this image does have a coordinating die that you can use with any die cutting machine, but I went ahead and fussy cut it out with my scissors. And then I'm going to use a Memento Tuxedo black marker, and I'm going to go around the edges to kind of darken the edges. This cleans it up a little bit when you fussy cut something by hand. I also have a scan and cut that I should be using to cut all these images out, but I tend to just go for my scissors to fussy cut. Then I'm going to add some clear Wink of Stella to the hair. And then for the horn, I wanted to add a little bit of gold Wink of Stella, but I wanted to put it just along that left edge where I had the dark Y26 Copic color, because this Wink of Stella does come out and it does add color. Then I take the clear Wink of Stella and I kind of blend the two together just to kind of smooth it out a little bit. And then I'm going to use the Wonky Stitch rectangle dies from My Favorite Things that just came out. I'm going to use the largest one to die cut the watercolor panel. And I just ran that through my Big Shot. And then I felt like the unicorn image was just, it needed something behind it, so I'm going to go ahead and use the Wonky Stitches die, circle dies, and I'm going to cut a piece of vellum to put behind the unicorn. And then for my sentiment, I was practicing off camera, and I'm using the Hope Your Day is all full of rainbows and unicorns, I believe it says. I wanted to practice with the rainbows to see if I could get it to stamp in a rainbow order, so I used some of the Lawn Fawn inks in Lobster. I'll put the colors below, but it was the red, the yellow, the orange, green, and blue Lawn Fawn inks. And then I'm just grabbed a scrap of black cardstock, and I'm stamping the other sentiments on there with some Versamark ink. And I'm going to heat set those in white embossing powder. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim them out. And then I ended up not liking how I had the rainbow, so I went back and stamped it again on a piece of white cardstock instead of watercolor paper, and I cut it out with the washi tape die from Avery Elle that's in the new Valentine's Pocket die set that just came out. And I'll put a link to that below as well. So I'm going to tape that down to my circle behind the unicorn, the rainbow sentiment. And then I'm going to adhere the entire vellum circle piece down to the front of the card using some regular adhesive, tape runner adhesive. And then I'm going to do the same with the little black strip sentiments that I cut out, just using regular tape runner adhesive on that as well. The sentiment on this card was a little tricky as to where to put it and how to cut it and get everything to fit right. And then I'm going to go ahead and put cut a black card from a top folding card from a piece of black cardstock. It's your standard A2 size. I'm going to add some foam adhesive to the back of the watercolor panel. And I'm going to attach that down. And then I'm going to add some of the sparkling clear mix sequins from Pretty Pink Posh. This is the one that has the 10, 8, or the 8, 6, and 4 millimeter sizes, I believe. And I'm going to put those down with some Ranger Multi-Medium Matte and my tweezers. And that pretty much finishes up my card for today. Thanks for stopping by, and I will see you next week.